This is the zip pouch as I made in a live stream earlier on. I've used 4 strips of fabric for this one and 3 strips of a sparkle fabric behind there, and I think that just gives a little flash of the glittery fabric as you start to fill the bag and the pleats open up a little bit. I've left this plain on the back. You could do the same on the back and have the box pleats if you prefer, and on the inside I've used a contrasting gingham fabric, so it's all fully lined as well. But in this video I've made the bag slightly wider, so instead of the 4 strips of fabric I've used 5 strips of fabric. So it's the same depth as the bag that we made in the live stream, but this one is that little bit wider. And again, you just see that little flash of the sparkle fabric as you start to put things inside there. So it's a good sized bag for cosmetics or to keep your sewing notions and bits and bobs or crafty items. Something that's going to keep you organised and makes a very pretty gift as well. So I'll leave all of the fabric requirements in the description box underneath the video. So go and choose your fabrics and let's get sewing. So I've got 5 pieces of my outer fabric, and each one of these measures 7 inches by 2.5 inches, and then 1 strip that goes across the top, and that measures 14 inches by 2.5 inches. And on the wrong side of each one of these I've already put some interfacing. You could use a G700, I think this is a G200 I've used on that one, just to make it a little bit firmer. Then I've also cut some of my glitter fabric, and these pieces measure 7 inches by 4 inches, and we've got 4 of those, and those go in between each one, there we go, of the outer fabric strips. So we'll put that piece to one side for now and just sew all of these pieces together. Then we'll take the iron, and first of all I'm just going to press all of the seams. Now if you've bought the sparkle fabric from us, then you can use quite a hot iron on it, I have tested. If you've gone for a different type of glittery fabric, then do test first and just make sure that you're not going to melt these. Turn that heat right up. Okay, then I'm going to pinch each one of the seams so that the seam is right on the edge, and give that another press. And do that on each one of the seams. And then pinch the seams, and we're just going to top stitch very close to the edge. Back to the iron, and we can fold each one of the sparkle sections just to form a center crease, and then fold each seam to the edge so that they meet in the middle, and we'll give that a good old press. And we'll do this with every section all the way across. Now you can pin these in place as you go if you wish, or pop a few clips in there. I think we tend to find that the creases will hold as we sew, and then we're going to sew across the top and the bottom of each side just to hold those creases in place, the box pleats in place, while we construct the rest of the bag. So the final piece there, let's fold in half just to mark, then to the centre and crease. And pinch these pieces and we'll sew straight across the top and straight across the bottom. And then take your longer strip of fabric. This will be too long, better to have it too long than too short, and place it right sides together and sew across the top. So now we can trim off the ends. Fold the fabric up and we're just going to top stitch across the seam. Now if you're going to put any lace or any kind of embellishment on there, then now's the time to do it. Just got a little thread there. So I have a piece of ribbon and I'm just going to place that across the top. That could be maybe a strip of lace or whatever trim you happen to have. I'm going to use a 505 spray. I'll just spray that onto the wrong side of my ribbon, away from my sewing machine, just to hold that in place while I sew. You could use a glue stick or just pin it if you prefer. And then I'll sew down each side just to hold that in place. If you have decorative stitches on your sewing machine, you may like to use those now. I'm using a contrast colour thread, so that makes it quite a feature. Or a little bit of hand embroidery or decoration might look quite nice across the centre of your ribbon. I'm going to add a bow at the end of this, so that will make it a little bit more special. Then let's chop the ends of the ribbon off. And I'm also going to take another length of ribbon, which will be about 5 inches long, and sew this facing inwards just on one side of the ribbon. You can make that longer if you wish and use it as a wristlet, so you can wrap it around your wrist. Or maybe even add a D-ring to it, make these shorter, have one on each side, pop a D-ring, and then you could put a chain on there if you wanted to. If you wanted to make this into a little handbag instead of just a cosmetic bag like this. Then I'm going to need a piece of fabric for the back and 2 pieces of lining fabric, all cut to the same size. So this is why we didn't cut this previously, or cut the backing pieces previously, because we need to make sure that these are cut to exactly the same size as the front of the bag. So I'm going to cut through all 3 layers together here. And trim the sides and across the top and bottom. And this is a good time also to make sure that your fabric is square. Now in the one that I made in the live stream, the bottom of my bag had flared out a little bit, so I kept that shape. This one's turned out to be pretty square, which is also fine. Okay, and then it's time to put the whole thing together. So let's take our zip, and we'll put this on the outer piece first of all. And this is going to go facing downwards. I like my zips to be longer than I need them to be because I don't like to sew around the stoppers. So this way I can keep the stoppers right out of the way while I pop the zip in. So let's flip this over right sides together and just sew across the top of the zip tape. I've moved the needle on my sewing machine over to the left hand side, so I don't need to put the zipper foot on the machine. And it also means that as opposed to a zipper foot, there's more surface area with a standard foot, so I find that I get more grip on my fabric when I'm using my standard foot. It doesn't always work, but for the most part, it's I find it's the best way to fit a zip. So that's on the one side. The second part is going to go on the opposite side of the zip. So I've got the two outer sections on each side of the right side of the zip. And then we'll pop the lining on the opposite side. Now pin this if you prefer. I tend not to. I find it easier just to line up the edges of my fabric as I'm sewing in this case. But if you prefer to pin or clip or glue, that's absolutely fine too. So that's the outer section of my bag. Let's turn this over and pop the lining onto the opposite side of the zip. So that goes on there like so. And then if I sew from the same side I've just sewn, I can see where the stitch line is that I need to sew. So we'll put the lining onto each side. And back to the iron again. Let's open this out. I'm just pulling the outer fabric and the lining away from the zip. It's got a couple of little threads there. Let's pick those out. I'll chop them off. I don't know where they've come from. And we'll just press the fabric away from the zip. Same on the lining. And then top stitch along each side of the zip. Now with the zip open, we can snip off the ends. Then we'll fold again with the zip open. Let's sew the ends of that zip together first of all. So that'll help it to stay in place while we're constructing the rest of the bag. So just close that a little bit. So just match each side of the zip and just sew a few stitches across. And then we're going to take both right sides of the bag and put those together, and both lining pieces of the bag and put those together, and sew all the way around, but leave a turning gap in one side of around about 3 inches. When we come to where the zip is in the middle, you're going to push that towards the lining side. just trim across the corners to make the little less bulk in the bottom of the bag. And then turn the whole thing the right side out. I haven't left the zip open quite enough there. So I'm just feeling where the slider is through the fabric. And then let's turn this through. And then where the gap is in the side of the lining, just pull each side of the hole away from each other and then sew straight across here. And then push the lining inside the bag. Now the ends of the zip disappear into the side seam, so it can be a little bit bulky there. So push the lining straight down to the bottom, and then we'll give the whole thing another press. Two more things to do. I'm going to take another length of ribbon and whoops, just make a bow. And that's just going to go on the side here. So let's trim the ends back to make neat. And I've also got just a little strip of beads on a string. And I'm going to pop that underneath the bow to decorate it like so. And these I'm going to use a Gutermann HT2 glue, which is a wet glue, which is nice and strong. So quite a big blob of glue on there. And pop the beads over the top. I'm just going to squeeze the end together like so. And then the bow just goes off the top there at a little bit of an angle. And then we'll wait for the glue to dry. And my bag is ready to use. Then just one final thing to do. I've got a small piece of ribbon which is just 1/8 of an inch wide. And I'm going to fold that in half and use my quick and pick, it could be a pair of tweezers, and just push that through the hole in the end of the zip pull. And tie that into a knot. And snip the ends at an angle to stop them from fraying. So now it's ready to use, and you'll find when you start putting things inside your bag and filling it out a little bit, those pleats open up and you just see that really nice little flash of the sparkle fabric behind there. It's just quite subtle, it's just enough. So I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you experiment with different types and different colours of fabrics and different times of trimming, and maybe add a little D-ring to each side and make a strap to use this as a shoulder bag as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. I shall see you again next time.